1 and 2. Screen's very orange across the top. I just now noticed, I was like, wait a second, both these teams have orange.
Their logos may be a little bit similar. A lot of times there were some jokes around last year when both of these teams were towards the bottom of the standings that they were kind of clones of each other, but that is not to be this time. Phoenix1 is now 8-5, and both of these teams have actually made pretty substantial strides since last split. Bans not really showing that much early on, aside from the fact that heavy targeting from Phoenix1 towards Acadian's most successful champs.
Yeah, along with the Malzahar that they took out first and foremost, the remaining 2 bans in this first phase are going to be Graves and Rengar. The bans from Echo Fox. LeBlanc is number 2. They still got a few seconds left before they lock in that third one. The last ban before the picks actually starts. We'll have to see what they really want to keep away here from the side of Phoenix1, and it will be Ryze.
Yeah, so still some powerful junglers left. The Kha'Zix hasn't been as heavily prioritized on patch 7.4. Meteos is also heavily prioritized Elise, but because both those junglers are up, you wouldn't expect there to be a huge pinch on those champion pools.
And Meteos being able to pick from whatever he wants in his jungling pool might be a nice advantage for Phoenix1 this game. They were hovering around on a couple of different looking options, but they are going to decide to go with the Ezreal that Arrow had a lot of good performance on last night.
Agreed, but it's also a little bit surprising to see the Ezreal first pick. I think that does kind of speak to the heavy target banning of priority junglers versus the heavy target banning of some of the best champions in the mid lane that have received nerfs in patch 7.5 but are still in patch 7.4, which left this environment where there wasn't much that was needed to be first pick, so we got to see one of the more rare first picks in the LCS. I can't remember the last time I saw Ezreal as the first pick in the draft.
Well, the first pick in response to that on the side of Echo Fox is going to be the Olaf. They left it open, but since Phoenix1 did not take it first, that means that Echo Fox and Acadian have the opportunity to snatch that one away from Meteos, along with the Ashe.
Absolutely, and Meteos, when I think of Olaf, I would expect it to be on Meteos for this draft phase, and maybe Echo Fox saw that coming with the way the drafts was being played out. Not to mention, if Meteos does go with Elise, if we think back to Worlds, Olaf was the pick that would shut down Elise. So those interactions still exist where post 6, he can just run the Elise down, and it makes it very difficult, especially since Meteos likes to go the full AP Elise. It's going to make it hard to survive, and it's going to make it a more dangerous pick.
The second pick locked in for Phoenix1 is going to be Lulu. We saw what TSM was able to do with that pick right before this, combining it with a powerful tank in the top lane. So,
man, everyone picking Lulu this week. There must have been so much Lulu success in scrims. You always kind of see these picks that creep up over time, because this is the second week we've been on patch 7.4, but really this week is where everyone's been prioritizing it. And if they lock in Zac, it's because they do not want that Elise versus Olaf matchup, and there we go.
There it is. Glad to see Meteos picking up that champion that he knows he's good at, that he's very comfortable on. We've seen him play it before. He did find the win with it. It's not picked nearly as frequently as the Olaf and the Elise are for him, but it's always that nice little pocket pick that he's got waiting if he needs it in one of those desperate situations.
Yeah, I mean, in this meta, it's almost exclusively a Meteos pick, and that was kind of what we knew we were getting when Meteos rejoined the LCS. He said, I haven't really been trying to keep up with the meta. I've just been playing the champions I like and the champions I'm good at and trying to make it work, and Zac fits specifically into that bucket.
Absolutely does. The final pick for Echo Fox in the first part of this champion selection process is going to be Karma, likely to go down there with the Ashe in the bottom lane as the bans begin again, and Gangplank going to be taken off the table. Echo Fox does not want to have Zig on that one.
Yeah, he's been quietly good on the carries, as you mentioned, this split. Not to mention, the reason you would pick the Karma is just to make sure you have the hastes for the Olaf in the mid and late game, so they can match some of the hastes from the Lulu. And it looks like, at least now, since there is 80 carry, support, and jungler picked by both sides, they just get to target whatever of the two solo lanes they feel are most threatening.
Yep, lots of focus onto those solos. The first two bans going to be focused towards the top side, with Shen being the ban from Phoenix1. And now as we move into the last couple, Echo Fox going to take Syndra off the table. And Phoenix1 will have one more ban before we pick the last 4 champions. We'll have to see if they want to continue to target Looper in the top lane, or maybe show Froggen some love, show him some bans. Oftentimes, Echo Fox does draw some strange bans towards Anivias and Twisted Fates and stuff that only Froggen plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost hard to ban all of those champions, so they end up just going with multiple top lane bans. This is playing into Zig's hands a little bit because he has Kled if he wants it. So the more top laners that are meta they can take out of the equation, the higher he feels like the chances are that he gets an advantage matchup with the Kled.
games we saw last night when he did have to play the Kled into the Nautilus. It was rough early on. He did go down by a significant CS deficit, so understand why they're taking that one off the table, not wanting to really have to deal with that again, as Echo Fox gonna go ahead and bring in the Fox, grabbing up Ahri for Froggen.
Yeah. Froggen's Ahri was actually really good last week when he played it, even though it didn't always lead to victories. Even from a deficit, he really kept them in the game with his ability to find 80 carries in the sides of fights and one-shot them. Not to mention, we have seen Ahri rise more as a blind pick mid laner. This is not the first time this week we've seen Ahri picked in this exact situation, opting to pick a different role as the last pick counter.
Phoenix1, what are you going to respond to this with? The answer will be Cassiopeia there in the mid lane. Anivia being hovered, but most likely a troll hover. Otherwise, that would be either Anivia or Cassiopeia top, which is pretty unorthodox.
Yeah, pretty unlikely.
But hey,
talk about Zig wanting carries, and I think we're going to get to see the Kled that we've been prepping since before Champion Select, as long as he's hovering it. Please lock in so we sound smart.
After support Maokai with Ignite yesterday, I now believe in anything. I can't be tricked by anything in Champion Select at this point. I'm just going to roll with it. But the Kled will be locked in for Phoenix1, taking that one topside.
Yeah, it's a little dangerous because Looper does play a decent number of champions, and you're wondering what will be pulled out against the Kled. Kled is a generally strong laner, and Zig specifically does usually like it in counterpick situations. Because there were the multiple top lane bans with the Shen and Nautilus, I feel like he's comfortable here. But Renekton could potentially be a really tough matchup. Renekton
versus Kled, carries there in the top lane, and we've talked about it before with Looper and how he performs on this team. Generally seems like he's more in his element when he's on something with some carry potential, as opposed to just the raw tank.
Yeah, I mean, he also has his own flavor. The way Zig has his Kled pick, Looper has his Synth pick that he has a World Championship skin with. So there is that element to it, and Renekton does have some strong 1v1 potential. So if Looper is unable to have the great team plays, which has been a little bit lacking this split, being able to potentially bully the lane with Renekton does fit in quite well.
And in the series that they played versus Liquid last week, where Fox ultimately took the win, ended up going 1-for-1 on their week, Looper's Renekton performance was huge in their wins. Both games, Looper did just an absolutely ridiculous job on this champion to be able to make sure they were able to find that win. So do not expect him to not have an impact on this game.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at the overall team compositions, it does look like Phoenix1 has a little bit more thrown into the team fight initiation, whereas Echo Fox with the Ahri and the Renekton are potentially a little bit more lane focused with some flanks. But overall, if Looper gets huge, it's still going to be that tank, and they're relatively balanced team compositions matching up against each other.
Yeah, both these top laners can be a big threat if it ends up getting to the point where one of them is significantly far ahead of their counterpart. And that's just going to be a nightmare scenario that both teams have to keep in mind and prevent that from happening for their opponents.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to see how Froggen can match up against Ryu in this match as well.
Right, we're loading on to Summoner's Rift now for the first time today for Echo Fox versus Phoenix1. Only one can walk away with the victory. Phoenix1 wants to climb further and further towards the very tip-top of the ladder, and Echo Fox really needs to secure that lower end of the playoff spot for themselves. Everybody's working their way out of the summoning platform, and it looks like we're going to see a pretty standard fan out, as is pretty much par for the course, game number one.
Yeah, as is customary. Sometimes you'll see the teams that have the Thresh or the Alistair that can really secure you a kill level 1 without completely messing up your skill order be worth it. But not in this situation because there are no super epic level 1 spells that can guarantee a kill.
No, not really a whole lot of anything. A bear trap on a rope, maybe a volley that would slow someone down by 3% or however Ashe slows you down at level 1. Not really a lot of tools to be working with.
Yeah, if they were to all clash in at level 1, I mean, you can definitely start doing your analysis on this. Like, the Karma level 1 is ridiculous. The Olaf Axis level 1 is also great, but those are slows over a long period of time. So once again, not worth the risk, especially when they're just going for a neutral level 1 and both junglers want to get their start.
A couple of wards thrown down. Acadian just wants to make sure that nobody's going to come mess with him as he tries to grab these chickens early on. You mentioned him not adapting to this start earlier, but now he's all caught up, going to be working out exactly how to make these routes be effective. Meteos will be doing the same thing at his Raptor camp, stun and arrow, just sticking around to make sure nobody tries to do the same thing.
Yeah, no extra little help from the mid laners. Occasionally you'll see that. to help them kill the early raptors first, because when you kill all the small ones, you hit level 2, which allows you more power to kill the big raptor. The extra experience that got put into this camp is essentially why everyone's trying to start it now. But it's a fairly harassable camp, actually. If a team does want to go for an invade, you steal one of those little raptors and you can actually really mess up the other jungler as far as hitting level 2 at the right time. None of that happened in this game, though.
And a lot of times you see other players in the team help the jungler out with taking those, maybe throw an AoE ability over the wall. Sometimes even your own teammate can mess you up, accidentally take one of those tiny raptors by mistake, and even one not being there kind of eliminates the whole point of starting it. Meteos grabbing his own red buff, now going to be working his way around. And one thing that you're going to have to keep in mind if you're on Echo Fox this game is all the unorthodox gank patterns that Meteos can take with that incredible range on the elastic slingshot.
Yeah, most of it, I feel like, is Zach's ability to gank the mid lane. Once he starts getting level 7 in Elastic Slingshot, can actually jump the entire river. So it makes warding near impossible unless you're able to get very deep wards, then there's not many ways he can sneak past it, but we're not quite in that point in the game as of yet.
Arrow trying to aggressively go forward, find some damage onto Keith, who will sidestep away from that Mystic shot. And talking a little bit about Keith and Gate, we mentioned before the game was starting, back when we had the pause, that the bottom lane for Echo Fox hasn't really stepped up in the way that they would like them to overall over the course of the split, but they've been doing better lately as Arrow eats a lot of damage.
Yeah, and this is a situation where they want their lane to be fairly aggressive. The Ashe Karma has immense shoving potential early on in the lane, whereas Ezreal and Lulu isn't your traditional thought for a lane. Ezreal is a soloist type AD carry who a lot of times will put on team comps that want to dive very well because he can kind of protect himself, whereas Lulu is the type of support who you expect from a very auto-attack reliant AD, not necessarily a spell weaver like you have with Ezreal. So a mismatched lane that Echo Fox is going to try and punish early.
Acadian hanging around the bottom lane. It would be a very risky dive if they decided to go for it, so he'll just walk himself out, not really finding a real opportunity there. As Looper finds his way into the enemy jungle, going to be seeing Meteos working on that blue buff, but doesn't go any further towards it. Instead, just drops the ward over the wall so they can keep an eye on what Meteos is doing around that Gromp.
Yeah, nice shift away from the Mantra Q as well. The ward speaks well to how Looper is controlling that lane early. Froggen also being able to push in the mid lane does give Acadian a lot of freedom to try and power farm on the Olaf. As long as he does so, he's actually currently getting outpaced a little bit by Meteos.
Yeah, he's the only person on the map that's really got a noticeable CS difference between himself and his opponent. All the lanes going very, very even this early on in the match, but with that being said, there is a big bunch of minions piling up here in the top side against Looper, so he'll be able to get himself a little bit of an advantage as those crash into the turret, and he's given the opportunity to farm those up.
Yeah, it's actually a dangerous point in the lane right now for Zig, as he has no wards whatsoever in the river and no jungler to give him cover, not to mention his trinket is on cooldown. So he's trying to get this wave into the turret, and he's going to probably get away with it because Acadian isn't there, but I just want to point out the risk of this play by Zig means how important he thinks it is to get those minions in. And here comes Acadian.
Acadian trying to make the plays. Looper jumping in onto Zig, getting a little bit of damage. Now Zig in retreat. Acadian still looking to find the damage here if he can. Going to go ahead and dismount Zig from Skarl. Looper flashing forward, able to grab the stun, but Zig still cutting himself backwards, goes underneath the turret, will not be brought down.
Whew, but that's the risk we talked about, and that was a delayed gank as well that nearly kills him. Zig knows how to survive ganks on Kled, though, has the dismount to reliably make sure he combos his flash with the little hop back he gets once he gets dismounted and presses his Q. So nice job surviving the gank, but it did cost him his summoner.
That summoner down means he might be a target for a repeat visit sometime if Acadian decides that that is going to be a good investment.
Yeah, the bonus is that the summoners from Acadian and Looper are also down. So technically he won that summoner spell trade and he needed to recall anyway. So it did work out quite well for Zig in the end.
Definitely not the worst situation you could be looking at as Gate finds his way around on top of Arrow. Again, going to be getting more damage with that Mantra Inner Flame. Froggen getting himself away from the gank here in the mid lane. Ryu and Meteos looking to make this happen if they can. Froggen low on mana. Petrifying Gaze finds him. But Ryu is such low HP, getting himself away over the wall with the flash. And Acadian with no summoners will not be able to chase it down.
Whew, and very close to getting killed right there is... You kind of see the misfire from Meteos' Elastic Slingshot, misses Froggen by a mile. You don't get to recalibrate once you're in the air on the Zac right there, and it makes Ryu kind of turn and barely get the escape.
Man, that would be OP. Imagine if you could do that. Change Zac's trajectory mid-air, fix yourself, and pretty much always hit the elastic slingshot, Zach would be picked
Control like a Scion ult as you're flying through.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, Gate actually just sticking around in a brush by himself?
Gate in a really precarious spot. Acadian trying to move his way down here, keep that support alive. One more auto attack's gonna do it. Arrow's grabbing the first blood, but now is he in a bad spot? Oh! Yes, he is. Acadian grabbing that kill. Almost able to make it two. Stunt getting chased down, flashes himself over the wall at the very end, and 1 for 1.
Yeah, I think Stunt didn't realize Acadian hadn't caught his last axe and couldn't chain the throws towards him. That's why he flashed away at the end, not wanting to feed the double kill over to Acadian. Overall, I think the first blood is probably worth it for Arrow. Just a really wacky play right here. As Gate was probably waiting for the Olaf and the Ashe to come through, but when Stunt checks, he kind of has to act immediately to not get caught in the minion wave, exhaust as early as he can. Acadian does arrive because he blast coned over the wall, and then when Arrow goes for the kill, he is kind of sacrificing himself for Acadian for the first blood bonus, and lucky it is just a 1 for 1, but he's lost all 4 summoners in that dual lane, and now Keith has a summoner spell advantage.
Yeah, the summoner spell investment in that was absolutely huge. The edge could be a real difference here for Echo Fox in the bottom lane, especially now that the Enchanted Crystal Arrow is up and available for Keith. That might be a green light for Acadian to come back down here and see if they can set something else up. The Lulu is only level 4.
Yeah, and Stunt we had praised for yesterday's performance as his first match on Phoenix1, but this is turning into a relatively rough laning phase. We mentioned how the Lulu and the Ezreal are kind of mismatched from a skill set perspective, and they're going to be getting shoved in by the Ashe and the Karma. But now it'll be a question of how well can they play defensively since they are kind of without tools.
Keith also with a 15 CS lead over Arrow, so the first big one of those that we're starting to see pile up sans the jungle this game. Acadian and Froggen moving into enemy territory around that blue buff, seeing if they can find the opportunity to steal that away. Keith gonna be forced to flash, but Meteos has paid a visit in the bottom lane, bouncing around, up and down. Arrow grabs the kill, and Gate gets himself away just barely, but his AD carry's corpse is still going to be tainting the lane.
Man, so much for that summoner spell advantage. There goes Keith's heal and flash because Meteos joined the fun. Acadian ghosts from a ways away.
Acadian's got the ultimate to make this happen if they want to go all the way in for it. Petrifying Gaze going to be sidestepped. It's all up to Froggen now, and he's got the kill. Getting himself away, but now Kled sounds the horn, looking to grab the revenge on this. Can he do it? He's got the jump. Froggen's going to be chased down. Zig needs just a little bit more. The bear trap procs.
Oh my goodness, he'd already jumped towards Froggen, so he followed him all the way through, and now Gate's dead too.
Gate gets himself chased underneath the turret. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow finds its way onto Meteos, but it's not going to matter. Phoenix1 goes up 4-2.
Oh, and they're going to get the first turret bonus, so this just turned into a huge advantage. Going all the way back to that gank in the mid lane right here. The commit was pretty smart in a sense because they knew they were going to be able to secure the kill, but they underestimated the Kled's mobility. Acadian and Froggen knew their damage potential and figured they'd be able to kill as long as they had eyes on Zach, who was in the other side of the map, so they thought it was a safe dive. Zig, though, just flies, just zigzagging through the map. Beautiful aim at the beginning of that Kled ultimate to just catch Froggen, and then I'm not sure why Gate was here. This is really on him. The turret was going to be going down anyway, and he just adds a kill.
The second time this game that he's put himself in a spot where he didn't really want to be. Both deaths now can be chalked up to that. Considering that means that you could have avoided both of them, that's something that he's got to make sure that he's not allowing his opponents to continue to do as this game goes on with 1,500 gold lead and now a Cloud Drake under the belts as well. Phoenix1 is looking solid 10 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and look at all the wards they put in the lane. In the bottom side. I wouldn't call this the most efficient use of wards, but they definitely exist. So if Zig does want to teleport in, that's the play, because there's no way Keith can farm that wave safely while those wards are there.
Just an entire line of them drawn across the lane. That was pretty interesting use of them. There's also a significant amount of vision being placed down by the side of Echo Fox around the top part of the river here. One of those being the Scuttle Crab, but there's also a couple of control wards in there, and we talked about them moving up, trying to take control over the enemy blue earlier as well. Both teams having a little bit different of an idea what they want to be doing with the vision in this game. Mid lane, the flash still down. Now, just now, back up for Ryu. So going to be a little bit harder to gank if Acadian wants to try to come back, make some kind of a play. Top side, Phage completed along with the double Dorians and the Ninja Tabby for both of these top laners. Completely mimicked builds.
Exactly, and Zig is just the one who's had more map impact. early on in the game. I do want to just double back on the ward point right there. The reason those wards were placed in that way is because Stunt had his sight stone and was going to be recalling anyways, and he didn't have any other huge wards on the map, so he just says, I'm going to give as many teleport locations as possible. The last one alive right now is on the brush up there, and it's unlikely to be used, but I do like the fact that Stunt made that play because it gives the top laner a lot of options.
Top laners just continuing to go blow for blow up there as Keith, Froggen, Gate, everybody else on Echo Fox kind of going to be spotted out there by that ward in the mid lane. So not able to set the trap brush that they were looking for. Trying to get themselves back into this game. They recognize that they're down. They want to get some kind of a good pick like that. Zig jumping in onto Looper. Going to be eating a lot of damage early on. Ooh, just barely misses out on the second proc for the bear trap on a rope.
Yeah, and if you can get that bear trap on a rope to proc twice, it's actually... aside from an empowered flame spitter from Rumble, the highest damage level 9 ability in the game as far as base damages go. So one of the reasons Zig likes to play fairly aggressive in this. And here comes Meteos.
Meteos trying to come in from behind, immediately going to be stunned up, goes for the less bounce. Keith getting himself locked down, Arrow finding the damage, True Shot Barrage able to grab the kill. Wild Growth onto Meteos, but they don't want to take this one any further for now. Looper and Acadian in hot pursuit of Zig, who's going to be stopped, as they will not allow that ultimate to get him out of here. He dismounts. Can they take him down before he's able to get Scarl back? Yup. And Looper's the one grabbing the kill.
And the way Echo Fox is getting these kills is by killing Phoenix1 in between their turrets. So the question is about what you can do with the kills afterwards. Yes, it's a successful gank that puts Zig in a bit of a hole, but it's still going to be a ways until they can get that top turret. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of pressure on the bottom side. They're losing jungle control where Meteos is. The Stunt is able to roam up the river on Lulu. What is this going to cost them?
Well, they've got the tier 1. Now, as long as they can get bodies back down bottom side.
Hopping all the walls.
Zach trying to make the move. Here he goes. Not going to find the elastic slingshot connect, so immediately has to retreat. A lot of damage being poured into him as he makes that walk away, but he'll still be all right for the time being.
Yeah, that was ambitious by Meteos. He didn't even have Lulu there. It was pretty much going to be a 2v2 turret dive, so pretty easily dodged away there.
Imagine how cool it would have been if it worked.
It would have been. That would have definitely been a highlight play. And it also just kind of makes you reconsider your position when you're Keith and Gate, thinking, this dude just hopped from who knows where and is in my second turret. Like, what? Is there anywhere where Zach can jump on me? The mental aspect maybe is important.
Just playing the mind games. Is there anywhere that's even safe against a level 9 Zach? And those places are few and far between. Meteo's now going to be proccing that level 10. Getting closer and closer towards that level 2 ultimate as both top laners are content just staying towards this top end of the map, 14 minutes in. Next Drake will be a Mountain Drake if either of these teams decide to fight for it. And we've got a very close game on our hands.
Yeah.
So if they do decide that it's worthwhile, we could see a pretty explosive fight.
Yeah, the only place where it's running away a little bit is down with Arrow and Stunt. The fact that he's got a very early tier in Sheen off of the first blood that he essentially suicided for, but then is, with the help of Meteos, transition that into the third kill against a fairly physical damage team, also picking up the Ninja Tabi. Going to be slippery, tough to kill, and making a lot of use of that first pick Ezreal.
Let's see if he goes for the Iceborne Gauntlet this game as well. We saw him do it in one of the matches last night. So if he thinks that that physical damage, that is enough.
And it wouldn't be bad in this situation. Most of the time we see people going Trinity Force just because the damage difference is so high, but they're in a team composition with Cassiopeia and Kled. They're going to have other sources of damage where sometimes the survivability can outweigh it. Curious to see where he goes this match.
Acadian hanging around, clearing out the Scuttle Crab, just trying to provide some control for his team over the Drake pit, considering that's going to be live in under 1 minute now. Phoenix1, though, they've got similar ideas, moving themselves in, utilizing the Scryer's Bloom to get some eyes on those wards, take out any of them that they find. A lot of bodies hanging around this bottom part of the river right now, Jad.
And there's Meteos.
Meteos coming in, but he's not going to be finding anything, backing himself out.
Yeah, did burn Froggen's ultimate, though, which will diminish the amount of aggression that Echo Fox can put forth, especially for the Mountain Drake, which is spawning in 30 seconds. So absolutely worth it as far as when you're going to go for that elastic slingshot. And now Phoenix1 is going to look to move into the river for vision control.
Ahri with ult compared to Ahri without ult, just two vastly different experiences in a team fight.
Almost a totally different champion. Ahri really becomes Ahri with that ultimate, whereas someone like Cassiopeia, while it is important to have the ult up, is still going to have that machine gun damage with the Q and the E. So not a great need for Froggen there, and potentially cost them this Drake.
Phoenix1 should be securing this one rather easily.
Teleport's coming in, they're gonna fight it.
Echo Fox wants to take it down, see if they can at least punish for this. Acadian looking to make his way into the pit if he can. Stun gonna be jumped on. Looper exhausted. Meteos into the back line of Echo Fox. Zig gonna be joining up. Keith is soloed out and brought down. Looper and Acadian into the pit. They're gonna be grabbing that Drake. As now Acadian's gonna be brought very low, taken down next. Looper trying to get himself away from this one, but Phoenix1 is locking him down and shutting him out. Arrow grabs that kill, and it's a 3-for-1 trade, but Fox takes the Drake.
Yeah, Acadian was able to get it right at the end, but I actually credit Phoenix1 for turning and fighting even when the Drake is low. A lot of times when you're doing Drake, you're worried about the Drake getting low before the fight. But because it's a Mountain Drake, it's actually the lowest damage of all Drakes. So Phoenix1 is fully healthy for this fight and doesn't have to worry about the Drake hurting them. So everyone jumps on stun at the start, whereas everyone else jumps on Keith for the other side. Keith goes down right away, Lulu takes a lot longer, and also because Froggen's ultimate was burned before the fight, Phoenix1 had a way better hand at the start, and they able to win 3-1.
Meanwhile, while we're watching the replay, Froggen pops the ultimate again and almost kills Arrow, but almost, sadly, does not add an extra 1 onto his kill score, so gonna be leaving a little bit disappointed with that one.
Yeah, Froggen's still hoping to put as much pressure as possible out with the Morellonomicon. Has a large amount of cooldown reduction already. That Spirit Rush at rank 2 only on a 66-second cooldown, so really just those small windows you have to work between playing against them.
Going into this game, we talked a little bit about Acadian's inconsistencies compared to his performances early on in the split. And although he's not completely 1v9 running away with this game, at 1-1 and 3 on the Olaf, securing that second Drake attempt, he has been doing a pretty solid job and a good performance so far this game.
Yeah, he knows where he can get the kills. The fact that he was ghosting so early for the dive in between the turrets on Ryu and was also able to come up to get that kill onto Zig is showing he's able to calculate his damage and find the kills. The problem, though, is Meteos has been more effective. Zach also not known as this crazy early game jungler, whereas Olaf is more the early mid game guy. Meteos is in a position where he can outscale and also have better late game initiation, so it's going to be tricky for Phoenix1 from here on out.
Yeah, Zach doesn't really
for Echo Fox, rather.
Zach doesn't really turn on until he hits that level 7 that you were talking about, hits that level 9, when the slingshots can start coming from all over the place. But Meteos has reached that point and more, and he's 2-0 and 4 already, so the sky is really the limit for what he's able to do on the Zach this game. 2-0 and 4 on him, 6 out of 8 kill participation. Acadian does have 100% KP, though. He has been a part of every single play that Echo Fox has been able to make onto their opponents. Charm not going to connect onto Ryu. Phoenix1 still trying to find a chance to shove these waves up, get some opportunity to put some damage into a turret, because the objective count is still rather low this game.
Yeah, no one's been jumping over themselves to finish the Cloud Drake and the Mountain Drake early on. The vision control has been fairly heavily in the side of Phoenix1. We haven't really seen any Ash Arrow plays attempted by Echo Fox, as most of the time Keith has just been running for his life. So the fact that it's only 1,000 gold lead is good for Echo Fox based on the pressure discrepancy, but as we mentioned with the scaling, does put them in a very difficult situation.
And Keith, 0-3 and 1 on the Ashe compared to the 4-1 and 3 on Arrow. You talked about how that's the building difference right now, and it's really starting to be showcased even more as the Phage in Arrow's inventory does indicate he's going to be going for the Trinity Force. We were talking about which item he would likely be picking up this game, and he does want to go for the damage-heavy option. Phoenix1 ahead right now as we tick 20 minutes, 81.3% win rate when they're this far ahead.
Yeah, with a lead at 20 minutes, and this lead is one of the smaller ones you can imagine, 1,300 gold, but small scaling advantage if Zig can avoid getting picked off. He might actually have to give up this turret.
Looper and Froggen will not be allowing him to stick around without some kind of a fight. Froggen moving forward, be threatening to zone him away with the charm, but Phoenix1 has decided, all right, you want to put the solo laners in the bottom lane, we're going to be looking for Baron. Keith, Gate, and Acadian working their way towards this. Meteos coming over the wall. Elastic Slingshot comes out. Petrifying Gaze not going to be hitting much of anything. Ryu popping the cleanse, keeping himself alive through the stuns. As Acadian has to fall back now. He and Gate both incredibly low. Looper looking to work his way into the fight now. Meteos grabbing the kill onto Gate. Now has to try to grab the kill onto Acadian as well. Going to find the double. as Looper runs down a couple of different players. Phoenix1 now going to be losing their support as well. 3 dead on the side of Fox, 2 dead on the side of P1. But Froggen and Looper not only found the tier 1 in the bottom lane, they're going to find the tier 1 in mid lane as well. Now jumping onto Zig, some nice chain CC. Zig in some real danger of potentially being brought down here, but it's Looper who overcommits. Meteos and Zig chasing this down as long as they can. Zig remounted, going to be that much more of a threat. Froggen with the charm over the wall, keeping him safe and getting him out, but the elastic slingshot right back into the mix, not able to provide the damage.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack from that fight as Zig is continuing to chase. He might get him.
Looper still might be in trouble, just barely able to slice his way out of that one.
So much happened there. The advantage is actually to Echo Fox because they were able to get 2 turrets, but this play, when Phoenix1 saw 2 people bottom, wanted to force a pincer. I'm curious as to why the Kled TP took so long, because if he would have teleported a few seconds earlier, they could have killed Gate, Acadian, and Keith right away. When that doesn't happen, Looper ends up matching, and despite having 2 people bottom side for Echo Fox, it gives time for Froggen to roam up that we're seeing on the minimap right there and kind of equalize the fight with 2 kills. And then because Echo Fox was able to kill this mid lane turret as well as the turret they killed beforehand, they're actually up in gold. We talked about the 1,300 gold discrepancy they had at 20 minutes. It's gone now.
Yeah, Echo Fox with an even smaller lead. It's not even 100, but it's there. Very, very, very minute advantage for this team over their counterpart. But it's still better than being down. And they got to be feeling good about the way that ultimately played out, not giving away the Baron, instead grabbing the objective. Now they've got all 3 of the outer turrets down their opponent's side, means they're going to be more comfortable pushing up into enemy territory, laying down those wards, and taking control over more of the map. Acadian looking to solo down this Cloud Drake. Yep. Nobody even nearby at all for Phoenix1 to contest it, and P1 is going back for the Baron for the 2nd time.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine this is only to try and bait a fight in. And Meteos is trying to get his elastic slingshot down, but actually, if they never come in, they have the hawk shot. They'd have to go right now.
They have to go right now if they want it, but it's going to be secured. Phoenix1 have found themselves the Baron. But now the fight is going to be breaking out in earnest. Looper going in, but he's all alone. He's going to be turned into a nice pair of boots before it even starts. Meteos now the target as Echo Fox trying to get themselves out of a really precarious spot. Phoenix1 have been able to find 1. Can they find more? Acadian running into the fight. Ragnarok berserking. Arrow exhausted over the wall, finds the damage as Froggen's going to be juggling around. The more damage pouring in. Phoenix1 have found 4. And Acadian, the last man standing.
And it was actually the perfect call for Phoenix1. When Arrow's True Shot Barrage scouted Acadian at the Drake, as well as Froggen in the bottom side, while I thought it was going to be a base for the fight, when they had the control ward in there, there's no vision for Echo Fox, they don't have a smite, and they only have 3 people with which to face check against potentially 5 for Phoenix1. So really, once that True Shot Barrage came through, it was clear for Phoenix1 what they needed to do, and they got it done, not to mention the fight afterwards, which was perfect.
And we just mentioned a 1,000 gold lead turned into a 100 gold deficit that's now back into a 5K lead.
Yeah, and then once the Baron is down, Echo Fox still tries to fight because they kind of expected Phoenix1 to be low, but they weren't. They killed the Baron with Meteos' tankiness so well. A bunch of damage gets trying to bird into Meteos for really nothing while Looper is down. And then Froggen actually tries for the re-engage, but at what cost? They were already in a 5v3 situation. Meteos has the Let's Bounce ready, completely finishes off Keith on the backside of that fight, and it just goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, Fox could have got away after only losing Looper. They might have been
all
right, but now Keith is going to be jumped on. Meteos and Zig with no mercy. True Shot Barrage just comes through to prove a point, as Phoenix1 now have a 5 versus 4 push opportunity for the next 30 seconds. The enemy without their AD carry is going to have a hard time repelling this attack.
Yeah, with the Baron minions, the difficulty of Echo Fox trying to find an advantage fight right here is just massive. Meteos can threaten from over the wall with Elastic Slingshot. If Echo Fox tries to defend, it's in trouble.
They're pulling the trigger already. Acadian going to be bursted low. There's no way Ragnarok's getting him out of that one. Looper having to run away as well. Echo Fox with absolutely 0 chance of defending this. The tier 2 is done. Tier 3 now the target. Charms coming out, but what do those even do? It's not going to be solving any of these problems. Meteos with no fear in his heart whatsoever, just Elastic Slingshot time and again into these back lines, zoning Echo Fox away and allowing Phoenix1 to take the in-hit.
And I have to credit their lack of hesitation with these turret moves. It's one thing to watch Phoenix1 with the Kled, it's another to watch them with Kled and the Zac. They're just flying in anywhere they can.
Froggen now trying to run away. in some trouble. He has Spirit Rush. Zig trying to jump on top of him, finding the damage. Joust into Joust, a little bit more will do it. Meteos looking to chase it, can't quite find it. The flash and the ulti having to be used. Wild Growth onto Meteos to keep his passive safe. Arrow now in a pretty forward spot, but Gate's gonna be jumped on. A rampage for Arrow. Ryu popping the shield, Acadian drops. Keith is gonna be dropping, and Arrow is a triple kill now in this game. 10, 2, and 7. He's got a triple kill.
And Captain Flowers, they're relentless. They just
never
continue to fly, and Echo Fox thought they'd be able to turn it around because Phoenix1 was being what looked to be reckless, but no one fell. Stunt kept him alive with the shield, and Phoenix1 could actually end this game on this Baron.
We just said how much these guys are unwilling to quit pushing for advantages, and as soon as Froggen tries to defend on the Nexus, he's brought down as well. Phoenix1 will end this game 27 minutes in. They're onto the Nexus, and Fox can't stop it.
Oh my goodness, 27 minutes, and it's over. That was such an abrupt ending. 23 minutes into the game, the gold and the turrets were dead even. But one strong Baron call by Phoenix1 into a fight, into an endless series of events where they consistently came out on top. Echo Fox is kind of stunned.
I'm kind of stunned. I can't believe that we went from a game that was that close to a game that was that over that fast.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the score lines as well afterwards, Meteos with a knockout performance on Zach, 5, 0, and 11. Arrow, who we talked up as being the highest performing AD in the NALCS, not only started that game strong, but ended it even stronger, 10, 2, and 8. Just across the board, Phoenix1 did pull that one out when it looked relatively close in the mid-game.
Yeah, everybody on Phoenix1 did their job. Even looking at Stunt, he was able to go 0, 2, and 17, a part of so many different kills for this team. You saw what the Wild Growth was able to do in combination with Meteos' Zach, keeping him alive, just making him that much more of a disruptive force. The whole team just worked together as a very coherent unit.
Exactly, and I'm wondering as well, right, like Meteos, Stunt, this new roster, how long are they going to keep it rolling? Because it does seem like Phoenix1 is on a bit of a hot streak right now. Can they continue to close out against Echo Fox? This game was relatively close, but when you close out a game that quickly, the type of momentum you can carry over into the next game when these guys only get 10, 15 minutes in between matches, it's tough to shake a loss like that off if you're Echo Fox.
It's tough to shake the loss off, and Phoenix1 are just going to be riding that energy into match number 2. They've got to be feeling good after such a decisive win, because if you have a really slow, slugfest type of a game, it can be exhausting mentally and physically, but you have one that's going slow for a while, and then all of a sudden you just break free and destroy everything in 4 minutes. Man, that feels good.
Yeah, and feels great for Phoenix1. Doesn't feel that great for Keith. We talked about him not necessarily performing early. They shoved the lane early. They had that 15 or 20 CS advantage in the laning phase, but the game is much deeper and longer than that. They were not able to keep themselves in a safe push position. And I mean, who can necessarily blame them? You're combining Kled and Zach, especially once the game got a little bit out of hand. And as an Ashe, what are you going to do? You're actually just going to die a whole bunch. So it was a very tough situation once this game got a little bit out of control, just because of the initiation tools that Phoenix1 put together.
And we saw that showcased pretty much perfectly underneath the Tier 2 turret when it was still standing for Echo Fox. Keith's just there under the turret, clearing out some minion waves, and then boom, elastic slingshot into the Kled. He's just dead. They don't need any help from the carries. It's just those two alone have all the tools, the mobility, the damage, the tankiness they needed to make his life impossible.
Yeah, I feel for Keith in this one. I would have liked to see Echo Fox pull out a few more proactive moves with that Ashe Arrow, especially when they felt like they had a lead in the game. There are ways you can just stop shoving in the bottom lane once you are level 6 to pull them towards you and then try and combo that with ganks. They weren't really able to orchestrate those plays in advance. A lot of that did come down to not having the proactive vision control you would like to see. Most of the game we were talking about how it was staying close, but the vision was usually on the side of Phoenix1, so the reason we wouldn't have seen the Ashe Arrows is often because they just didn't have the prep to know if it was safe to do it.
And it goes back to a situation that we saw in mid lane where when they were behind a little bit at the start of the game, down about 1,000 gold or so, Echo Fox was sitting inside a control warded brush, trying to find the opportunity to make a pick with the Ahri and the Ashe and the Renekton. But little did they know, there was actually an enemy ward just outside of that control ward range, and every time somebody stepped out of the brush, we already know you're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're going to go ahead and throw things over to the analysts now to see what they make of